I'm back. I'm back. It has been a minute since I've been on here. The summer just kind of happened. It honestly went by super fast, and I was really busy with work and exploring Nashville and all that kind of stuff. And so, as you guys I'm sure know, I only put out the 2 videos of Nashville. Clearly I'm in another place now, so I'm actually back at school in Arkansas in Salem Springs. I was in Nashville for 10 weeks, and then I went home for 2 weeks, and now I'm back at school for this semester. But I was just so busy with all the things this summer that I just wasn't making YouTube a priority, I guess. And also I brought my camera charger. I'm pretty sure it was the right charger. It just was like broken or something, but it wouldn't charge my camera. And so I didn't have, I had three fully charged batteries the whole summer, and that's what I had to work with. And so instead of going to buy a new charger, find the right one and all of that, I just decided to just enjoy my summer and not necessarily worry so much about putting content out there. But I am back. I've been back for a couple of weeks now, but I really love Nashville, and I honestly really miss it. And so I thought I would make a YouTube video talking about it, because, you know, what else am I gonna do? But I did want to go ahead and kind of share with you guys some of the things that I did this summer and some of my favorite things, all that kind of stuff. I thought it would be just a fun video and fun for me to have just the memories. I will be showing you guys pictures over here. Most of them are going to be coming from my Instagram stories. So if you want to see more, I have a lot more, so go ahead and hop over to my Instagram and you can look through. I have all of these on highlights, and so you can see there's like, I think 3 different highlights just from Nashville alone. So you can go and look at those if you want to see some more. Also, before I get into any of the things, my plants are all back, or some of them are back there with their little grow lights. So if you see, like, if it looks like I have little purple antennas or something, I don't. It's the grow lights. So first off, why was I even in Nashville in the first place? So I think I touched on this a little bit in my first Nashville video where I was moving to Nashville, but I don't remember how much I exactly said there, so I'm just gonna kind of give you guys the rundown here. So basically I was there to work. I had an internship. The National Science Foundation has this program called REUs, Research Experience for Undergraduates, and I applied to the one at Vanderbilt University in Nashville. I got accepted into that, so that's what I was doing, why I was going to Nashville. They have these programs all over the country, a bunch of different universities, but Vanderbilt was the one that I just really wanted to go to, and I got in, so that's fun. I was doing research the whole summer. There were 11 of us in the REU program there at Vanderbilt, but we were all in different labs, and so I only met like half of them. We were all kind of doing our own thing, working pretty independently. So my lab, we were working with ion mobility mass spectrometry. It's kind of a mouthful, IMMS, but we were looking at proteins and how they unfold. So proteins in like your body or whatever, they're going to be kind of folded in a specific way. And then once you add energy to them, you can induce the unfolding of the proteins. So we were looking at that in kind of 2 different ways. We induced the unfolding using increasing temperature, so just making it hotter. And then we also induced the unfolding by applying increasing voltage. So we just kind of looked at how they unfold differently, temperature versus voltage. I have a research poster. I will throw that up on the screen. I'm not really going to talk about it a ton. If you want to look at it, you can pause the video and look at it. But really, I just want to talk about Nashville and not work. So now I'm just going to talk about some of my favorite parts of Nashville. There were a lot of favorite parts of Nashville, but a few specifically that I went to the most or that I just really enjoyed the most. So I'm gonna share those with you guys, and if you're ever in Nashville, please let me know if you go to any of these places, because that would be fun. So one of my big things, Nashville is very, like, it's a big party town, you know, that's kind of what it's known for, is like the country music, honky tonks, and all that kind of stuff. I'm not at all into that scene. I just don't enjoy it. Broadway is the main street in downtown Nashville that has most of like the bars and honky tonks and all that kind of stuff. I went there once the whole summer. It's just not my thing. But another thing that Nashville has a lot of is coffee shops, and that is something I can 100% get on board with, because I love my coffee. So I was very excited to try all sorts of new coffee shops in Nashville. And originally I was thinking I would go to you know, 1 or 2 new ones each week. And because there's like a billion of them, you know, there's so many. And so I knew I wouldn't be able to get to every single one. But I started a list, and my list very, very quickly added up and up and up. And I ended up with like 20, 25 coffee shops on the list, but that would have been manageable, going to 2 each week for 10 weeks, 20 coffee shops. My final count at the end was 31. And that's not including the times whenever I went back to coffee shops for a second time. This is one of those things that is on my Instagram story. If you want to see all 31 coffee shops that I went to, they're all on there, so go check that out. I'm not gonna go through all 31 here. Most of the coffee shops were really, really good. There were a few that weren't my favorite, but we're just not going to talk about those. One of my favorites, one that I went to several times, was called Crema, and it had the best view of downtown Nashville. I love just like the city and seeing the skyline like from afar. I like being in the city too, but I also love just seeing it like from kind of a distance. And Crema was kind of on the outer border of downtown, so it was still downtown, but it was removed enough to where you could get a really cool view of the city. And so I have a picture here, and I love this picture except for that stupid gas station. Because now there's just the gas station sign reflected in the window, and I feel like the picture would be so much prettier if you didn't have the bright neon lights signaling the price of gas right there in the middle of it. But oh well, you can just kind of crop it that way and it looks just as fine. I actually sat in the parking lot of Crema on the 4th of July to watch the fireworks because I did not want to go downtown to like the big party concert thing that was going on. And so I just stayed over at Crema, had the perfect view of the fireworks, so that was a lot of fun. I think I have some pictures, so they will be up there as well. But my absolute favorite coffee shop in Nashville was Red Bicycle. It was such a cute coffee shop. Like, how cute is this? Like, adorable. I first went there, I think in week 2 or 3, I don't remember which, but pretty early on. And then from that point, I went at least once a week for the remainder of the summer. It just was so cute. The coffee was delicious. They had crepes. They were so good, like delicious. I cannot express to you enough how good these crepes are. My favorite crepe order was a Nutella crepe with strawberries and bananas on top. So good, very yummy. They were very dog friendly. There would be dogs in there all the time, and I would always go up to them and pet them because I just think that's super fun. It was in a really fun area of Nashville. It was kind of like Crema, where it's like kind of on the outskirts of downtown, so it's still like in the city, but not quite smack dab in the middle of downtown where you have to pay like $40 to park for an hour. This one had some free street parking, which is great. So those are a couple of my favorite coffee shops from Nashville. A lot of my stories that I can tell from Nashville, probably 90% of them revolve around coffee. Not because they're specifically about individual coffee shops, but just because I spent so much time getting coffee and so much time in coffee shops. I have noticed that since being back and people asking me about my summer, I've noticed that like 90% of what I tell them has something to do with coffee or a coffee shop. I don't see a problem with that. I'm okay with that. I'm not complaining, but I just think it's kind of funny. Another one of my favorite places to go was the farmer's market. I'm not really going to talk about this one a lot because there's a whole other video. The single solitary video that I made in Nashville was at the farmer's market, so I will put up here in the corner a little thing you can click to go and watch that video. Hold on. This is my bonsai tree. They sold them at the farmer's market in the little garden section, and every single week that I went, I thought they were so cute and I kept wanting to buy one. And so the last week that I was there, I went to the farmer's market and I got this little dwarf jade bonsai. Her name is Autumn, so there you go. Very cute. Oh, another thing that I have a list here of things I was going to talk about. I didn't even put this on the list, and it was like one of my favorite things ever. Belmont Mansion. So cool. It's just like a historic mansion, kind of like a museum sort of thing that you can go in and walk through, and they have it all set up and restored like how it would have it was just so cool. I literally went there like 4 times because it was so cool. It was so pretty. It was on Belmont University, is another university in Nashville, and the Belmont Mansion is on their campus. Like, that's where the name of the university comes from. But it just was so cool just getting to walk in and like experience the history and like be there, and just a big fancy house is just always cool, right? I actually discovered Belmont. I told you guys I talked about coffee shops a lot. I discovered Belmont on the way back from a coffee shop. I walked to the coffee shop, had my coffee, and then as I was walking back, I was walking on Belmont University's campus, and I just saw like up the hill this gorgeous mansion, and I was like, what is that? And so I just walked up there to go and look at it, and they had a sign out that's like Belmont Mansion and had their admission times and prices and everything, and I was like, I have nothing else to do, and so I just went in. Another history thing that I really enjoyed, there is a full-size Parthenon replica in Nashville, like big old Greek building. Kind of random, but Nashville used to be called the Athens of the South, just with all the universities and kind of higher education that was located in Nashville, kind of before it was the country music city, all of that. And so for, I believe for this centennial, they had a whole fair thing in this one park, huge park, and the Parthenon that they built was originally for that centennial. And after the fair, they tore everything down, but for some reason they left the Parthenon there, and then after several years they decided to turn it into an art museum. You can walk up around the pillars. The ceiling was really cool, but you can walk around outside, and then you can go inside kind of underneath the actual Parthenon, and it's an art museum, so they just have some different paintings and things, and then you can go upstairs, and that's where it's a replica of what the inside of the actual original Parthenon would have looked like. So there's this huge statue of Athena, like she's holding a little dude in her hand, you know, Nike's up here in her hand, and he looks about this big. He's 6 feet tall. So like that just goes to show you how big Athena is. And the park around the Parthenon was super cool. It wasn't, not like a playground sort of park. It was just a big open grassy area. Off to one side there was like a man-made big pond lake thing with a path going around it, so lots of trees and stuff. There was plenty of room to like have a picnic, or people would be out there with their dogs or playing frisbee or whatever. So just a really nice area. There was one day where I just wanted to go and sit out in the sun, be outside. So I just went to Centennial Park, which is the name of the park the Parthenon is in, and I just took a blanket and I got some coffee, again coffee, and I took a book and I just sat out in the park on the grass, and I just read and I drank my coffee, and it was so nice and so peaceful. The last thing that I'm going to talk about here, this was so much fun. So I don't really know how I found out about this. I found it and I just went with it. I just don't remember like how I initially found it. Basically, the Nashville Humane Association has this program called Doggy Dates, where you can go at like 11 in the morning, pick out one of the shelter dogs, and just take it for a day. And like you have to bring it back at 3 or 4 o'clock, but you can just like take it and foster it for a day, more or less. They let you go and like pick which dog you want to take, and I got so excited when I found out about this program because, like I said, going into coffee shops and seeing all the different dogs, I love, you know, seeing the dogs at coffee shops, but I've just always thought it would be fun to be that person with the dog in a coffee shop, to be the person that people come up to ask, hey, can I pet your dog? So of course I wasn't going to turn down that opportunity. So I did the doggy date thing twice. So the first dog that I took, her name was Laney. She was so sweet. She seemed like sad, like depressed in dog form. She just wasn't interested in things like a dog normally would be. Like, she was great on a leash, she just walked right next to me, but she wasn't that interested in her surroundings. But when I went back to pick which dog I was gonna take for that day, she was like the 3rd or 4th kennel that I came to. And you know, most of the other dogs are jumping around and barking and being dogs, but she just like stood there in her little kennel and just like looked up at me with the most adorable puppy eyes, and just like looked at me, and she was just wagging her tail so slowly, and it just like my bleeding heart. There's no way I can't take that poor little girl. Hopefully I was able to make her feel a little bit better for that day, because it just was so sad. She did not seem happy. But she got adopted within a week after I had her. So like, that's so happy. She has a happy home now. The second dog that I took was Autumn. Yes, that is who my bonsai tree is named after. Autumn, it was the same sort of thing with Laney, where I walked back into the little kennel room and was gonna pick which dog I was gonna take, and I just saw her, and she wasn't jumping up and, you know, being crazy like the other dogs. She just like sniffed at me, and she like was wagging her tail, but she seemed a lot calmer. She was really tall. She was like a lab mix sort of dog, but she just seemed a lot like her legs were a lot longer than most labs that I've seen. She just seemed really sweet, and so I was like, oh yeah, I'll take her. She was like 10 months old, so still kind of a puppy, but she seemed like a dog that I could manage. And so they bring her out to me on the leash, and I take the leash, and she immediately starts pulling my arm off. And I was like, oh no, this is not gonna go very well. And I took her outside to, you know, see if she needed to go to the bathroom before getting in my car. She wouldn't get in my car. I opened the door and Laney had just hopped in, but Autumn would not get into the car. And so I was like, okay, maybe the front seat is too small for her. So I take her around to the trunk, and she would not get in the trunk. She would put her front paws up, but she just wouldn't hop up. She was tall enough to get in there on her own. But eventually I just had to scoop her up and put her in the trunk, and she was fine once she was in it. She didn't resist. She just wouldn't get up herself, and so every time I had to get her in my car, I had to pick her up and put her in the car, which was fun. With Laney, I had taken her to a coffee shop first, and then we went out to Centennial Park and just walked around the paths there. But with Autumn, I decided to flip that around because she did seem to have so much more energy than Laney did. I was going to take her to the park first, get all that energy out, and then go to the coffee shop, and hopefully we could hang out there for a little bit and she would be like worn out and wouldn't be crazy. So we go to the park, and I was anticipating like having to really hold on to that leash, and like I was just anticipating her to be a lot harder to walk with than Laney was. She was so good on a leash. Like, I was blown away. Like, I did not expect that. She did, for when we first got out on the little path, she did try and like chase after, I think, a squirrel or some birds or something. But after that, she was perfectly good on the leash. Like, she just would walk right next to me. She would go and sniff some stuff off the path every once in a while, but then she would come right back next to me. She wasn't pulling on the leash, anything like that. And then afterwards we went over to Red Bicycle. That's where I took both of the dogs, because that was the coffee shop I went to the most, and I saw so many other dogs there, and I finally could be the person bringing a dog to a coffee shop, and I was so excited. But I still wasn't sure how Autumn was going to react to the coffee shop. Just, is she gonna lay there and like be calm? Is she gonna want to play with everybody? Is she gonna be crazy? So I go up and order, and she did try and like go and sniff some people and like say hi to some people, but she was so good. Like, once I sat down, we were at an end table, and so whenever I sat down, she just laid down. Like, after a couple minutes, she just lays down right next to me. A few people would walk by or come over to pet her, and she would like stand up and go and, you know, say hi to the people. But then afterwards, she would just come back and just lay down right next to me. And like, we were there for 2 hours, and I just sat there drinking my coffee and reading, and it was so much fun. It was so sad and so hard to give her back, because I can't have a dog right now, but I really wanted her. But she has also been adopted since then, so that's super great for both her and Laney that they have their forever homes now. Happy for them. It's not happy for me because I don't have them. As somebody who really wants a puppy but can't have one right now, it just was really fun for me to kind of get to experience being the person at the coffee shop with the dog, just for a couple of days at least. So there you go. Those are some of my favorite Nashville memories. There's a lot more that I could add, but I don't want this to be like a 4-hour video. So those are just some of the highlights. I just really like Nashville, way more than I was expecting to. I will definitely go back at some point. Don't know when that'll be, but I'm looking forward to it already. So if you're ever in Nashville and you need some things to do, I've got lots of coffee shops to suggest to you, so just let me know. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am, like I said, I'm back at school, hoping to start making videos more consistently again. We'll see. But yeah, so I will see you guys in the next video. make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all the things, and I will see you guys later. Bye.